Welcome to episode 156 of the Thunder Underground podcast. I'm Trent, this is Jason, and we're back for a second time this week.
I know, we're busy.
Yeah, this is actually the first time in a while we were on a good run there for a while. We're going to do 2 every week.
Yeah.
But we burned ourselves out, I guess. I don't know. But this week we're back because there's a good reason.
A damn good reason.
And that would be one, David Ellefson.
That's right.
Is on this podcast today.
Yeah, that's right. Megadeth bassist. And just up to all kinds of stuff, and we got them.
So we're going to get to that here in just a bit. Talk some more about what David has going on. But first, we're going to play some music.
Why not?
Our good buddies in Screaming Red Mutiny have a brand new single that just came out this past week. This song is called Iron Disposition. Iron Disposition from Screaming Red Mutiny out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. What can you say about that?
It's a good, a groove-laden rocker, as they say. These guys, it's just a slapping, slamming all that stuff that starts with an S type kind of stuff. I mean, it's, it's got a...
Spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, definitely spectacular. These guys are, I think getting some traction, and this is a great song. Super hooky chorus. Loving it.
Yeah, I love that chorus. Sing along to the thing. The guitar work, has that really cool riff.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff going on here. Can't say enough good things about these guys. Got an EP out. Not this year. We're not 2017, but in 2016, that was fantastic as well. They should be having more music coming here this year.
Yeah, they got a video coming out.
For this track.
Yeah, they've shown up on some Spotify release radars, which is super cool.
That's true.
So, I mean, this is great stuff.
And they will be at HolataFest, the second annual.
Definitely.
That's coming up February 9th and 10th. And for those of you listening that aren't familiar with the band Screaming Red Mutiny, HolataFest is actually a celebration of the life of the original guitarist of Screaming Red Mutiny, John Holata.
Yes.
So if you're anywhere near Tulsa, if you're within driving distance, drive out here on those 2 days, because the Shrine in Tulsa, 2 full days of music, tons of bands. We're going to be talking more about that here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But you can't not see this thing if you're in the area, because it's just chock full of great shit, and Steve Murdoch is a good person to thank for that. Get out there to HolataFest. Get on Screaming Red Mutiny's Facebook. Follow them, like them, listen to them, buy their music.
You know it.
All right, well, we're going to mention this, that the lead singer of Cranberries passed away. And originally I thought we probably won't talk about this because I don't want to be one of those people that just try to talk about stuff every time someone passes away.
Yeah, I mean...
Because neither one of us, I think I know 4 Cranberry songs and I like them, but I don't. I'm not going to act like I love them now all of a sudden as well.
Yeah, they're not really in this podcast's wheelhouse, but, there was a kind of a connecting story that I thought was interesting.
That's right. Everybody that likes heavy stuff would sing along to Zombie because it's fucking cool.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great song, no matter what.
And I mean, it's obviously it was a lot heavier than the other stuff they're known for, like Linger and Dreams. But with that being said, what's relevant here is that we've had Doc Coyle on this podcast. Former member of God Forbid, now has a band called Bad Wolves.
Yes.
He was on episode 133 where he talked a lot about Bad Wolves. But that story came out the other day, right? The day actually that they announced she passed away.
Yeah.
That was actually that day she was scheduled to go into the studio to record a remake of Zombie with Bad Wolves.
Yeah. Yeah, she was, Bad Wolves in their statement they released, she died hours before she was supposed to lay down the vocals. So I thought that was pretty haunting, pretty interesting.
Yeah, so you got to wonder, obviously they'll still do it, probably as a tribute.
Yeah, and, they had a cover of it, and she liked it, and that's why she decided to be on it. And, Bad Wolves is an up-and-coming. I think they're going to make some waves this year. So, Yeah,
because they're on several of the
all the
big rock and metal festivals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, check them out. They've already got music out. It's cool. Another thing that anytime I think of the Cranberries, one of the first things I think of is Faith No More and their cover of Zombie, because it's just fucking phenomenal, because Mike Patton is, the greatest living human singer in the world. But
I don't know that I've ever heard that. I'll have to check it out.
It's not recorded. I mean, it's not a studio version. There's a live version that's done really well. You can just go on YouTube. You'll find one.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to check that out for sure.
Well,
you're always going to find some way to
6 Degrees of Mike Patton.
To wedge Mike Patton in there, aren't you?
Yeah, Mike Patton or John Crabbe or something. What else? We got anything else interesting to talk about?
Oh, we probably got all kinds of stuff interesting.
Well,
how long you got?
We got all day, man. People listen to this podcast for 8 hours straight.
Longest episode ever. Here we go.
Right. Now let's just play some more music.
Yeah.
We got this band called Locust Grove out of Oklahoma City, and this song is called Menace of Society. Menace of Society from Locust Grove. That's from their Monster EP that came out in 2017. These guys out of Oklahoma City are just flat out slamming.
Oh, man.
There's another S for you.
There you go. I mean, this song is just, it's heavy. It's just swinging its balls everywhere. The solo is fucking insane. I really dig this song.
What's cool about that solo is this whole song is just like your mid-tempo slamming, grooving, pounding, stomping fucking rocker. And then that solo comes in there and it's just like full-on balls-out shredding.
Picks it up,
just definitely. Over the top of that, and it works perfect.
Yeah.
And this band is just one that you got to see live. When you see them, you love what they're doing even more because it's just so fun to watch. Intensity, oodles of intensity. And another connection here we can point out is that we just played Screaming Red Mutiny a little while ago, and last year at Rocklahoma, I saw Locust Grove, and towards the end of their set, Sprout got up on stage with them and did a cover of Bury Me in Smoke.
Hell yeah.
So that was pretty badass.
We're all tying it together here.
Yeah. Formerly of Anti-Mortem,
yes.
Zane Smith, the singer.
Yes.
So there's another connection to what I don't know. Our last episode, we talked about Machine Head. I saw Anti-Mortem open for Machine Head. There you go.
Boom.
2 degrees of Rob Flynn.
A lot of degrees this episode.
Okay, right.
Not even over yet.
Right. Well, speaking of degrees, coffee is really hot. And You know who has coffee?
David Ellefson of Megadeth.
That's right. David Ellefson. Like I said on this podcast, this is a pretty special one for, I know, both of us, because as long as I can remember loving heavy music, we've liked Megadeth since we were, late 80s. Into the early 90s, obviously.
Hands down. I mean, this was pretty big. It was definitely an honor.
Yes. And I'll say, way back at the beginning, I think I probably got into Megadeth because of you.
Okay, yeah.
Just, because I, like anybody, knew Metallica because they started, even though they weren't on the radio, they started making their rounds out here in the Midwest. Yeah. People had, we got Justice for All, and then shortly after that, I know you started getting into other stuff, and I know I heard Rust in Peace through you, and that's kind of where it began for me, I think, probably. Yeah. And then, obviously, everything from then on, and went backwards as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you earlier, I just remember driving to Colgate in the back of my parents' car with my Walkman, listening to Dawn Patrol, and and then we're talking to that guy, so it's kind of a full circle thing, and this is really cool. Dave has got a lot going on right now. He's got the EMP Label Group, he's got his own line of coffee, Combat Records, they're resurrecting that. So on top of the beginnings of some Megadeth stuff maybe for an album later this year. So, it was a great conversation. He had a lot to say.
Yeah, just earlier this week, they had already announced this magazine, but they released the cover of it.
Yeah.
And they're going to be debuting it and handing them out here at NAMM later this month.
Yeah.
And then it said you also get a copy with every purchase you make through EMP, like whether it be merchandise or music. It had him on the cover, but it also has stuff about Skid Row and Queensryche.
Yeah.
I think probably Kill and everything. A lot of stuff tied into the label as well.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a magazine that encompasses everything that he's got going on.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome.
And it's just cool to see how many different sections this label's now going in.
Yeah.
That he mentions here in just a bit. Well, let's just quit talking and get into this. This is David Ellefson of Megadeth. So we're pretty jealous of your weather right now.
Yeah, for some reason, it's when I saw thunder, I was like, it'd been a while since we were connected on this. I was thinking, are they calling me from Australia? Is this like thunder down under? So, life's pretty good out here in Arizona right now, and even better because my Vikings won yesterday. So,
all right, yeah, that was
things are good.
That was a pretty insane finish.
It was pretty cool, man. That was pretty cool. So,
well, yeah, just jumping right in. Late last year, you guys announced that Combat Records was coming back. Is this something you had been thinking about for a while, or was it something you thought maybe we just needed a place for all the metal releases?
yeah, when we formed EMP Label Group, the reason I wanted to call it that was because I wanted to have it be just that, a group of labels that would be very individualized for the genre. I liked, I saw other labels do that. In particular, a home for Megadeth for many years, Capitol Records. The mother company was EMI. EMI had releases, Capitol had releases. They had Blue Note, which was their jazz label. And so I just liked that. I thought that would be fitting because it wouldn't pigeonhole the label into being a certain, only one genre. So EMPs are more kind of general mainstream, label. And then EMP Underground is where we've been putting the death metal stuff. And we just launched Outlaw Records, which is sort of our southern rock country, if you will, outlaw country thing that we're putting out. Ron Keel putting out his release through that. And then this combat thing, I mean, man, when that fell into place, I mean, we've had that now for about a year. Mm-hmm. And the reason we waited to launch it is, number one, we wanted to get the label up and running. But it was important that we launch it with the right artist, and artists, I should say. And one that came up about a year ago was Raven. And we knew we were going to have a chance to be able to release a Raven record. Raven used to be on Combat years ago. And also Hellstar, who we'd already put out a record for them, but they used to be on Combat. So we strategically waited to announce it till just a couple of months ago, and then knowing we were going to be able to push out these new releases with Hellstar and Raven in 2018. And then also, the goal, too, was to get new talent as well. So, like, we've got this terrific thrash group called Wrath out of Chicago. We've got Mark Rizzo from Soulfly. His solo record is going to be coming out on Combat. So it's nice to have some new blood in the pipeline here as well.
It seems like you guys have made tons of announcements in this past year as far as new artists that you're bringing on. Like, how big are you hoping to make this whole thing?
Like everything, you take it a day at a time. It's interesting in the business. We knew pretty quickly on. I mean, again, I formed the label essentially so I could continue to push out new Dollskin material. Which is and then what I realized is, like, okay, this could be a great home for me to be able to produce things and have my own outlet to push out records. Well, I quickly got busy and really didn't do too much more producing in these past couple of years because we're on tour with Megadeth. But suddenly Thom, started. People were coming to him saying, "Hey, I hear you're working on this label with Ellefson, and I've got, a record I want you to hear." And I mean, the phones just lit up with artists and people that he'd worked with back in the 90s and the early 2000s. People were looking for new record label homes, to put out their records. And we started to get also a lot of artists who had been on other labels at a different point in time in the record business, where maybe they were, throwing money at them and doing things, and the record business has changed a lot, and we just said, listen, our model is that, what we're doing is we're allowing artists to, record their own masters, and then we'll just license them. And people started realizing that, to just get a big check up front, while that can be nice, you become an indentured servant to your record label, and you have to go pay that back, and it ties up your rights forever, really, or at least until you can recoup it, which is almost impossible in today's record business. And also, we had some artists that had some experiences with other labels where, they kind of bit the carrot that was dangled in front of them of money, and then the label didn't do anything. I mean, they didn't promote. Their record just kind of went dark, and suddenly they're an artist trying to get some traction and do something. and realizing, wow, we got some money, but like no one knows our record is out. It's not on the shelves. There's no videos. There's no promotion. So, we realized with EMP that because we were thinking in a different mindset, we were thinking really about, one of the things we're good at is whipping up great press. We hire great radio people. We get a lot of our artists, most all of our artists, to hit some sort of radio charts. And in particular Autograph and even Mark Slaughter, have been hitting in the top 20, top 10 on Billboard. Really making a dent, which has really been helpful for them when it comes time to call the agent and start getting tour dates. Suddenly they're really back in the game again. And that to me is a much more practical solution as a record label to really kind of be a partner with these artists in helping get their careers kind of kickstarted and back up and running again. And to me, that's a really cool place for me to be in my life.
So are you directly choosing the artists yourself, or do you have a team that helps you out?
We have a team. Thom Hazart is really the A&R ears for the label. In fact, I've sent a couple things to him, and he says, "Trust me, I got 10 more that are 10 times better." And he was right. And it also made me realize that look, because there are costs involved in this, and we negotiate who's paying for these, the label, but the artist. Sometimes it's a split, a little of both. So there's some negotiations that go on in this kind of stuff. So, we as a label also have to, we have to be wise in the money that we commit to and, those kind of things. So, as much as you'd like to just say, oh, you got an album, hey, I'll put your album out. There are realities that, in the record business, you are there to try to sell records, and just as much as selling records, also to, create publicity and interest and promotion for an artist. And those things cost money. There's real cost to that because you have to hire people to do those things. So, but, like, for instance, we had one artist who was on CD Baby, and actually it sold some records and made some money. But, that was about all it was going to do. They weren't going to get any tours. They weren't going to really get any real publicity. And we ended up putting the record out through EMP and sold a modest amount of records, but the publicity was huge on it. And all of a sudden that opened up the door for bigger shows, and they ended up doing a US tour and, getting endorsements from proper music company, instrument companies and amplifier companies and things. And suddenly it took things to a whole other level. So, you kind of, it's a business that you can't just focus only on the money. You can't focus only on the sales. You kind of have to look at the whole package and the whole picture of it. And I think that's one thing that we do really well at EMP.
Well, you mentioned doing it at this point in your career. What is it that made you decide that you wanted to do this originally?
Well, the Dollskin record that I had taken over to my friends at Megaforce, and we initially pushed out an EP over there with a single, and started to get some traction. And the phone lit up, and agents were calling, and people were interested. They're the perfect kind of band for a young band, because when you've got youth on your side, if you're a new band and youth is everything. I get a lot of people who are in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, and they're like, man, and sometimes they're really great bands. They're really good because their experience, you can hear it in their music and in their recordings, but you're like, man, unless you can get out and tour and do that. And again, most people in middle age can't, they've got families and jobs and real life, So, I've tried to help some of them, and we've actually, been able to do that. And we actually have now a kind of a template set up to be able to help those bands, to be able to, to put some records out through EMP, which I'm happy to do, because that's just kind of part of being a musician. And even if you're not going to go play Madison Square Garden and be a rock star, there is a satisfaction to being able to put your music out and for people to hear it. That's kind of part of what we do. But a young group like Dollskin, they're young, and they've got the rest of their lives ahead of them, and it's the best time to get in the game and give it a shot. And they work hard. They tour a lot. They're rolling up their sleeves and they're doing all the same work that I did early on in my career. And as a result, it's working, and that's really what started this whole thing. But as Thom came to me, he goes, look, in order to have a label, we're going to have real distributors. We're going to have to get some other artists and some, in our pipeline. We can't just have like one band. So that's when he really got excited and got busy doing it. And I've learned a lot working with Thom, actually. As many records as I put out and as many record deals as I've had, I've always been over here on the artist side, and now being on the other side of it, I've really had an appreciation for the business of selling records, publicity, promotion, because I also manage Dollskin. I've got a good sense of what the group needs and how to put that together, and I've always had great respect for great managers. Management is kind of there's a lot of people behind the scenes, behind the stage, that are the unsung heroes of those of us that get on the stage and be famous rock stars. There's a whole team of people behind it, and I've really tried to take all those years of experience with that and pull that together and really put that on the front lines here with EMP.
Switching gears for a second to Megadeth, you've played with quite a few drummers and throughout the years, like how easy is it for you to adapt to these? Because a lot of these guys have totally different styles from each other.
Oh gosh, totally. Yeah, especially as a bass player. In fact, quite honestly, anymore, when I walk into any session at all, I pretty much my saying yes or no to the gig usually depends on the drummer. You know what I mean? It's I've played in some bands where you just want to love it, and it's just, man, if the drummer's just not grooving, or you're not grooving well with the drummers, it's a tough go, and especially in metal, in Megadeth we've had some incredible drummers, Chris Adler, he was a lot of fun to play with when he did the initial tours on the Dystopia tour, and then obviously he was we knew he was going to get busy with Lamb of God, so we knew the search for a permanent drummer was going to happen. And I tell you, Dirk, he had actually recommended Dirk, and when Dirk came in, I mean, the first day he was initially just going to fill in on on a run of dates that Chris couldn't do, and kind of heading towards this is probably going to be a kind of a permanent position kind of audition that we did with Dirk, and when he came in, I mean, Dirk was just like, man, great energy, and he hits his snare. His snare is so loud. I mean, we have to turn his snare down so much. I mean, even on a big stage like with Megadeth, and that says a lot. I mean, there's a few guys that you can tell who they are by the sound of their snare drum. Kenny Aronoff is one. Alex Van Halen is another. So Dirk is one of those guys that, man, when he hits with conviction. And he's a real skilled drummer. He can pretty much play anything you throw at him. And it's just really, it's a real treat to be able to work with Dirk.
So has anything been written for the next album?
A bunch of stuff has. The records, Megadeth records go through this process where everybody writes riffs and ideas, and we start to scribble down thoughts and lyrics and kind of concepts of songs, and then there comes this point where we start to throw it all into the pile, and Dave will ultimately give it a listen and see if it works with something that he's conceiving and conceptualizing, and once in a while you walk into something that'll just turn a whole different corner, which is fun. And other times you're just sort of collaborating into an idea that Dave might have. But yeah, this lineup is, because we spent so much time together on the road and really becoming a team and becoming a band together has given a whole new energy and a whole new, kind of new breath and new life into Megadeth, which is really cool. It feels like we've arrived at being a band, not sort of just kind of getting from this record to the next record or from this tour to the next tour. I feel like we're really, locked together as a team right now.
speaking of the next record, I don't know how much discussion's been had, but like, do you guys already know that Mustaine's going to produce it again like he did Dystopia?
Yeah, I mean, look, what we did with Dystopia worked well, and it's funny because there were several different producers that had come in on that record, and it's it's tough to be a producer to come into a band like Megadeth, especially this many years into our career, because we're very decisive, we're very decided on what we want, what works, what doesn't. I mean, Dave, as the principal songwriter, of course, is going to be pretty set in what he knows he wants to hear. And I mean, I think on Dystopia, there was this mindset of, let's just really step on the gas and go to the wall with this one, and really hold nothing back. And turns out that's exactly what the fans wanted to hear. So it's nice to know that kind of the baseline of Megadeth, has been reset, not bass guitar line, but just sort of the the foundation of Megadeth has been reset, and now we know what it is, and so I think that makes the journey into the next record there's kind of a confidence about it that's nice to have now.
When you look back at albums like Peace Sells, Rust in Peace, Countdown, like so many metal fans hold those in such high regard, did you see that happening while you were going through those cycles, or is that something you had to look back on later and realize?
I think it's more something we look back on later because, when you're doing the record, I mean, even Dystopia, I mean, as we were doing it, I mean, at one point Dave even looked at me and he just said, he goes, look, if they don't like this, I'm out of ideas. You know what I mean? Because we were going through, some of these songs were like putting together math projects, you know what I mean? The different combinations of notes that combined the riffs and it was fun, it was very clever. It was fun. It was like doing like Tetris, you know what I mean? Like the different blocks falling into place, So it was a really a fun process to do. But I think that's it. You kind of leave it all in the studio. You leave it all on the studio floor. It's like you just throw everything you've got right there at it, and that's really, quite honestly, that's what Peace Sells was. That's what Rust in Peace, especially Rust in Peace, was like that. Peace Sells is interesting because a lot of the songs on Peace Sells were actually, really Killing Is My Business and Peace Sells, those songs were all kind of written in the same couple of years, from 83 till 84. A lot of those tunes were all kind of written in that period. So it's interesting that some of the tunes like Devil's Island, The Conjuring, those were very, very early Megadeth songs. I mean, like some of the very first ones, especially Devil's Island. And that didn't end up making it, on our album until album 2, in 1986, 3 years after the band had been formed and together. So, in fact, Set the World Afire and So Far So Good So What, that was the very first song Dave wrote after, on the bus coming home from Metallica. So it's, funny that 3 albums later, it finally gets recorded. So, some of these ideas that float around, they just take what they take, it's almost like an album. An album is really a collection of ideas whose time have finally come.
Well, I guess just to wrap it up here, over all the bands and, the labels and books, which, your book was great, by the way. Is there anything that you still want to do that you haven't done, that you have to tackle?
Well, what? It's funny. I got a couple of things coming out later this year that you're going to hear about shortly. That one in particular that I'm happy about. This is something a little different with a friend of mine who you all know, and it'll be a fun thing, and it's just kind of just a moment on the side of everything else going on, and it'll just be kind of fun to pop that out. So I'll just leave it there, nice. Because that'll parlay into interview number 2 at some point later this year, I'm sure.
Gotcha.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you taking the time out to do this with us.
You're welcome, you guys. Hey, stay warm over there in the Midwest, and I look forward to chatting with you guys again soon later in the year.
All right. Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
There you go. Bassist and founding member of Megadeth, David Ellefson. Thank you so much to Pamela from Ellefson Coffee And, of course, to David for taking the time out to talk to us here on the podcast.
Of course. Definitely a highlight for me. Super cool.
And there you hear at the end that hopefully we'll have him back here later this year as well.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, if you're a Megadeth fan, way back at episode 71, we had Chris Broderick on.
Go check that out.
We talked about all the stuff he has going on now with Active Defiance, but he talked a bit about Megadeth as well. So that's a cool one to check out. And then, of course, we've got 155 previous episodes you can check out besides that. Other thrash guys we had on Sid Falk from Overkill, and that was a two-parter episode because he gave us about 3.5 hours worth of his time.
Yeah, how lucky were we?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And then we've had on Ted from Death Angel. We've had on both Gumby and Tony from Battlecross. Richie Cavallera from Insight. I'm trying to think of more thrash stuff.
There's got to be some out there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But, hey, you guys love Kirk Winstein.
That's
He's
right.
from Crowbar. Of course, he used to be in Down. Then we've had on Jimmy Bauer from Superjoint and Down and I Hate God. Had on Steven Taylor from Superjoint as well. Then we've had on guys from Seven Dust. We've had on Gene Simmons and Bruce Kulick from the rock group Kiss.
That's right. Kiss.
We've had on guys from Shinedown, Saving Abel, Great White, Warrant.
King with a Y.
There you go.
Sons of Texas. Twice.
That's right. The list goes on and on. So get on SoundCloud.com/Thunder-Underground. Dig through there. If you use iTunes or Google Music, Mixcloud, TuneIn, all that stuff, we're on all of them. Just search Thunder Underground. We'll be the second selection, probably under the Ozzy song.
Yeah.
So look us up, follow us, like us on all that stuff. Share us with your friends.
It was an honor for him to name a song after our podcast, you know?
That is true.
It's just such a great guy.
Yeah, and the fact that Zakk Wylde played on a song that is after our podcast.
Hashtag blessed.
That's true. We're blessed because David Ellefson was here.
Oh, definitely.
That's right.
That is totally correct.
TheThunderUnderground.com is our website. All the stuff's up there. We've got a new review up for a band called the Holy Warheads out of Michigan that Jason wrote, so check that out. This past episode we talked, and we had a review of the new Saxon album, Thunderbolt, which doesn't come out till February 2nd.
That's right.
But we got an advance copy, so we got a review out on that. We also reviewed the new COC album, No Cross, No Crown.
Yeah.
And hey, we've got more stuff coming. Once again, TheThunderUnderground.com, Facebook.com/Thunder-Underground. The Thunder Underground. I get all these things confused, but if you just search Thunder Underground, you're going to find us on there. Instagram, Twitter. Also listen to us every Monday night. 1027 WSNR.com, 7 p.m. Central. They got shows all week. We're the Monday night show.
That's right. You did good. You can remember all that. I'd have to have it on a sheet of paper. You're the man.
I did, I think, at first, but I just started saying it so much that I don't have to do it anymore. All right, once again, thank you to Dave Ellefson for taking the time out of his day to talk to us. Check out Screaming Red Mutiny and Locust Grove. And until next time.
Thunder Underground, y'all.